Hi, I'm John Danner. I'm the CEO of Rocket Ship Education. I want to tell you a little bit about Rocket Ship today. About 5 years ago, we started the company, and I want to kind of precede that with why we got involved in education. I was an internet entrepreneur. I sold my company, took it public, sold it, retired at 31, and didn't really know what to do with my life. Luckily, I'd been to a Jesuit high school, and as those of you who've been to Jesuit schools know, that once you've made a little bit of money, the Jesuits come find you. And so they did. They found me. My university found me the day after we went public, and the Jesuits 2 days after. So, and they asked, wouldn't you like to give some money to your high school? And I said, well, you educate upper middle class white men, so that's not a big cause for me. Do you have anything else? And they said, as a matter of fact, we do. We're kind of a victim of our own success. When we started our high schools and colleges 100 and 150 years ago, we were educating a lot of Italian and Irish immigrants. And what happened was that we did a good job at that, and so a lot of our alums became wealthy, and so changed our demographics. But we saw the opportunity that as the Latino population started to come into the country, and there were a lot of Catholic folks in low-income communities, the Jesuits really thought a lot about rethinking education. And so I got involved with a school that was called a nativity school. There are about 40 of them around the country that the Jesuits have started, which was a tuition-free middle school. And it was really fascinating for me. I'd never really done anything in public education before, just to see the body language of the people in the neighborhood when a great school like that was opened. And so I really got hooked. But for those of you who have given money to private schools before, it's not very scalable. So if you want to solve the problem for the country, it's pretty hard to figure it out. So Rocket Ship is really kind of the result of that process. And it's pretty simple what we decided to do. We wanted to go into low-income communities. We wanted to start schools assuming that nobody was ever going to give you any more money in public education. So you hear a lot in public education about if there was just another $1,000 per kid or something like that. And we kind of didn't believe that was really going to happen, or at least we shouldn't spend our time hoping that that would happen. So how could you create a more efficient and effective way to serve children in low-income communities? I went through that slide, sorry. So the other piece of it, though, was beyond efficiency, how could you actually close the achievement gap? So people talk about this idea that of the achievement gap between low-income and upper-income children, between children of color and white children. And our version of that, I'm going to go to this slide and then come back. Our version of that is this slide. So if you look at this slide, those yellow bars are Rocket Ship's results for our first 2 schools in California. And the green bar in between is Palo Alto Unified, which is the wealthiest, highest performing district. And our point in closing the achievement gap is not that we want to get results that are better than the school down the street or the school that was there before. We want to get results that are on par with the best schools in the state. So those 2 schools represented by those bars are number 5 and 15 in the state for all low-income elementary schools, about 2,000 low-income elementary schools. So that's what we're up to. We have 3 schools right now. They're all K-5, about 500 students per school. We don't charge any tuition. We have a lottery, so just like any other public school, but as a charter school organization, we have a lot of autonomy in the way that we organize. And the most interesting thing we do is we do some things that are very similar to other great schools. One, we have huge parental involvement. So a lot of people talk about this, but our parental involvement includes home visits to every family after the family is admitted. And you cannot believe how important it is to go sit on somebody's couch in order to understand what that student's life is really like and what are the challenges they face and what do you need to be thinking about in your classroom. So our principal and teachers will go out to every single home before the students started. Second, we really work with our teachers, and there's a big debate right now in public education. How should you work with teachers and how should you evaluate them? We think of it pretty simply. We take a lot of Teach for America Corps members, kids right out of school, lots of energy, no teaching experience, and we have academic deans at every school that work full-time with those young teachers to teach them how to teach. And we think of it as behavior change. So there are reasons that people fall into patterns when they teach and feel comfortable doing certain things. Unfortunately, those don't always align with what good teaching is and what's successful for kids. And so a lot of our work is changing the behavior of teachers so that they get better and better. One of the stats we've got there is that normally for Teach for America Corps members in their first year, about a third of them will make what they call significant gains, a year and a half of progress in their first year. We're at just under 70%, so about twice as many of our first-year teachers make significant gains as the national average, and we think that has a lot to do with the work we do. The thing that Rocketship's really known for is this third bullet, individualized instruction in what we call a hybrid school. So, you know, most schools, a child is there for 6 hours a day in a classroom. That's the sole form of education they're getting. What we decided was that if you really want to catch up the kids that are farthest behind, the classroom's not actually that effective because a lot of times they're a couple grade levels below or whatever's going on in the classroom's not really where they're at. So the learning lab, which is what we created, goes on top of the school day. You've got 6 hours of classroom and then 2 hours of this thing we call learning lab. And everything in the learning lab when the student walks in is individualized. So they have an individualized learning plan and they work with tutors or they're working in online learning. And every lesson is directly related to the things in their learning plan. They'll have 8 objectives, and each lesson will hit one of those objectives. And the results are pretty phenomenal. 90% of our students every year who start in the bottom performance ranks in California move up to the middle and top ranks. So we basically are eliminating kind of the kids that are a long ways behind that aren't benefiting from the classroom. And that's really the key to the success. So Rocketship, you know, I'm a Silicon Valley person, so when I thought about doing a nonprofit, I didn't really think about doing a single school. I really wanted to think about how is it that you could change American public education. And so we really thought a lot about how do you create a scalable organization from the beginning so that we could partner with superintendents and say, look, we know you've got these dozen schools in your district that really have been doing poorly for a long time. We think because of the flexibility we're given in the way we operate, because of this unique approach and model we have, we can help you to turn around those schools. And so now we're going out to several cities around the country to begin expanding from San Jose to other places. I get on a plane right after this to go to Nashville and then to Newark, 2 of the places that are really trying to create some new reforms. Florida's got some excellent stuff going on as well. So for Rocketship, our next step now is, now that we have kind of a core of schools and a model, how do we go out and have a really big impact on closing the achievement gap for the whole country? Thank you very much.